Hello everyone. So today I'm going to talk about GEM project that me, Arion, and Professor Miklos also provide the guidance to our project through all the way. And today we're gonna introduce the project briefly, and we will talk about some new initiative that we did for this project. First, we're gonna before we get into the real topics, I want to give a special advertisement to our Rutgers Accounting Digital Library because I'm the manager of this project. So if you guys can use the QR code, you can get to our Facebook channels and YouTube channel easily. We have all the courses that provided by the accounting department, include all the courses for undergraduate, graduate, and PhD level. So you can try to get some additional information from our PhD student presentations, and some other relevant information is also here. Okay, so let's first talk about the data error. What's the differences and what make us make this initiative of doing it. First, it starts with the big idea project that Rutgers provided, that we will think things bigger, think outside of the boxes. So Professor Miklos had this idea about, the traditional measurement of not really just like accounting, but also government measurement are not accurate and not reflecting the need from the citizens as they're supposed to be, right? So this project, based on the big data and based on the government economic monitoring, and because we are living in this data era and every day people generate humongous amount of data, and this data actually measures the different perspective of people's daily life, right? So this data can be exogenous or endogenous data, and the data pre-processing implies the data interpretations. Finally, we finish the data with the piggybacked analysis programs that build on each other, that will serve for a large variety of purpose, right? So we want to find the patterns of the data and try to find anomalies and try to see, what we can do with this data and what can be the most effective ways to approach the target audience, right? So all of this from the traditional way of the economic measurements, such as GDP, or we conducted surveys and providing education, like different school districts funding their education system accordingly with the not so clear formula, right? Or not so clear about the property rate. All those traditional measurements, we think they are having some problem, right? So these things are always delayed and do not fast respond to the environmental changes around people and not reflecting the citizens' need. And in addition to that, because of the jurisdictional differences among different states in the US, they're not necessarily even following the Gatsby standards, right? They're adopting it in the different ways that they create the variance of the policies adoptions, right? So start with a book written by a professor from Harvard University. Her name is Exogenous Data, right? So she provided this concept called surveillance capitalism, right? So this interesting lectures that we look at is what they called surveillance capitalism, which implies the digital giants such as Google, Facebook, etc., using the data generated from the individual users to predict what they will do in the future. And she believed that surveillance capitalisms in the different industries, right, try to sell the idea of inevitable outgrowth of digital technologies to people, and it's the alternative. The ultimate goal is to get benefit out of it, right? It is true in some degree, but it is also inevitable that the technology indeed change people's life. However, it's not a threat, but it's more like more like an opportunity to us, right? So especially under these conditions of like COVID-19, and previously Professor Miklos talked about, people start to retreat or relook at the situation of the trade-off between privacy and the public good, right? So for personally, me come from a central government controlled country like China, and be clear comparison between China and US is more like small government, decentralized. It's very different situations, but right, but it's like a spectrum, spectralism, right? So there is a scales of how much it should be controlled, right? For my master's, and my focus was on the education policy, right? So I understand the reason why the founding father of the United States decided like the things such as helping you building the road and education should be our local responsibilities, because those people are close to you and represent the need of the local people, and they are respond faster than the federal government. But personally, I think education should be a federal government level thing, because you want to emphasizing on the equality of the education right, which is very unique case in the US in the topic regarding to the education, right? So I feel like it will be more effective to respond to the changes, right? Even though each state have their certain freedom of choosing different detailed education policy, but similarly with the pre-K to 12, still have the federal government still funding majority of the uses in this, but most of the responsibilities are on the state and local government, right? So for this different dynamic between the policy making and actually the benefit of the public goods, right? This dynamic create us not really trust about certain measures that government provided, and provide the government audit is especially more hard, because with the concern of the accuracy of the data first, right? So Jim, we came up with these approaches that we use exogenous data from multi-sources, that the old way of the data processing will be replaced with real-time, more accurate, and more comprehensive measurement, right? It in addition, it combined the concept of e-government, that building the relationship like government to business, government to the citizen, and government to government, right? It provides effective and efficient public services because we link the existing endogenous data with the exogenous data, and the exogenous data resources are large and easy to access compared to the government data, even with the Open Data Act and many open data initiatives existing in the government sectors. It's still very hard for us to get sufficient data that to support even our research, right? So the exogenous data sources, again, variety and easy to access, right? So it could be used in different accounting and audit areas, and look at the data tree, and we can aggregate the different data sources and generate the economic measurements, and we also including the hidden data such as the data from dark web, etc. Right? So comprehensively, I feel like it's more like a double entrant kind of principles, right? There's something happened here, there's something happened there, and which is, if you link those things together, it's easy for you to be like, okay, this is real, or okay, this is not real because those two numbers supposed to be linked with each other is not linked, right? This is like a basic kind of principles that we are using within this module, right? And then we come up with the proposed framework of the GIM, right? So it started with the individual levels, right? So, and then we aggregate the information that from individual level. And this time we will have a big concern about the privacy, right? So, but like in order to resolve these questions, we came up with the security and protected private blockchain to help privacy preserving blockchain, and try to get the data encrypted the way that wouldn't leak the individual information, but also get meaningful analysis based on that, right? So we're matching the individual level data with the exogenous data collections, and we generated the real-time data extractions, right? And we using this data to use the modern technologies, data analytic method to generate the processed informations that using to generate the further the higher level indexes, and which is also coordinated with the alert system that could identify the anomalies, and then trigger the next step is the government actions, right? Based on the geographic locations. It doesn't have to be, very individual level. It can be very generic level about the zip code, right? So this area probably have drug abuse issue. That area probably have children hunger issues, right? Because of the different alert, we generate the action directly to tackle those social pathologies, right? So this is the way that we think is a dynamic and ongoing real-time model that would benefit the individuals in a better way, right? So it mainly focuses on identify the problem and generated target actions, which is absent from the previously mentioned or very popular social welfare program. The module is totally different because it's just like we want to have a direct interaction without having the interference of policies and without interference of or sort of like hardness that you could get the data in the real time faster and more directly, right? So there are some key elements of GIM and how to measure with the exogenous data, right? So the first one we mentioned about is an intensive set of data sources that we are used complementarily, right? So another very important thing is this is a continuous measurement analysis.
Elizabeth Chai of Chocho Vasarhelyi.
Oh, okay. So next part is this set a benchmark level of critical parameters and the state of the world, right? So which means that for different perspective of people's life, right? So this alert might be different for different area, for different state. This thing might be different, but we set the different levels according to the need. We change the threshold, we change the benchmark with the people's need, and we alert for specific conditions, right? We analyzing the data by okay. So if these people have the for instance, if this people is accepting the food stamps, but he hasn't been using it, he has no record of purchasing any food supplies for the past few months, and he is receiving the benefit. Where did he put the food stamp money to, right? He probably sell it for some other purposes. This is kind of like alert that we are looking for, right? We matching the transaction that he has with the banks, and then we check if he has any relevant information that matching with this, right? So this is kind of like the alert system that we're talking about, right? And then we have the methods of measurement for each of the different data sources, right? So because we collect the data from many exogenous data sources, we need different methods to measure them, right? So we also create taxonomies for integration, the database, and insight into the broader data ecosystem. Like what we said about is the data tree, right? Some existing, the easy to find data, and some hidden information that there. And then we also talk about the privacy preserving method and algorithm, try to make sure that the concern of the privacy should be leaving the big picture, because we try to do the best for the public good rather than using this to invade people's privacy, right? And similar to what Professor Miklos used to say, right? So, privacy still exists, but it also cause some concern. But actually, in fact, forget about that. Don't really worry about it too much because you're not that important, right? So just like think about it in a better way. Do you want to have a better services in the future, or you just want to keep at the way it is, right? People want some changes, right? So next we have a brief introduction to some of the small case study that we did, right? So we write the theoretical cases based on the SNAP or the commonly called the food stamp programs. By using the exogenous data of the neighborhood, we could generate the target action to the nearest zip code or school district without revealing any person's identity, right? So this is based on the experience of SNAP, right? You have to have an EAD card and to go to the certain food providers like Whole Foods or something who accept the SNAP food stamps, right? And this create a lot of problem because somebody maybe don't have access to those like SNAP food providers, right? So like instead of giving people the food stamps, why not just changing the model by distribute the food directly to the people who actually need it, right? But in order to do that, we need to have a better view of the target audiences. So I did research about how the current SNAP's applications supposed to be. In this map, you couldn't see very clearly, but like it's the total step number is 10. It's involved a lot of you visit the local SNAP offices and fill in the applications, wait for a period of time. They will review your material and they will give you an interview after they review all the material, and if they approve or not approve, they will issue you a letter to explain the situation, and this is the end. So the 10th step is fairly complicated and take a very long time. And we propose the new way of doing things, right? When you started, you can sign a smart contract with the government, right? They will they will automatically select the people who are eligible for the benefit, right? And different years, they might change the threshold. They might fit in the different data. There are new policy coming out, cover different population, no problem. We're gonna change that with our automation selection process. And if you are eligible, you automatically get the SNAP benefit. If not, you don't get it. But like if in the future you are also eligible for it because you signed the contract with the government, it's gonna automatically help you enroll and enjoy all the benefit that you need, right? So to better serve the data collection and avoid the human error, we could use this new proposed application process, right? It's combined with the smart contract, e-government, and which is a very simplified and automatic selections based on the exogenous data that provide more accurate measurements and reduce the fraud potentially in big time, right? Because according to the SNAP, like what the agent talking about it, and they said potentially they have like a $3 billion dollar fraud, committed fraud involved with the SNAP project every year, right? And that's a big money. If we save that money, we could actually funding all the GM project easily, right? So next concept we talk about is privacy preserving blockchain database, So as you can see, we separated by the endogenous and exogenous data, right? We're using the snap as the example again, right? Start with the application process and it's building up the privacy preserving blockchain support application database, right? So we have this database because the proposed processes. And then in addition, we create the EBT card database, employee database, food stamp shops, eligibility, all sorts of things, right? These are public database are colored in the green color, and the private database is using the yellow color, right? So we have the retailers which build up the government to business kind of relationship based on the e-government, and we also have individuals come in which build up the government to the citizens special relationship for the e-government, right? So along with these concerns about the privacy, government agencies, right, has owned the public and private database, right? So privacy preserving blockchain would be the solution for the transparent transactions and decrease the privacy concern, because with the interaction with the exogenous and endogenous data, we can provide the verifications of the transactions easily. And nowadays we are doing some research relevant to the COVID-19, and there are a lot of economic aspects of COVID-19, especially in the beginning of it. The market have like 4 major fusions, which is never happened before for many years. And this is a big crash to the economy, right? And a lot of aspect of life, people's daily life, is highly affected by this event. So I listed some of the economic aspect and some potential exogenous data sources that could be used. In addition, what kind of variables that we also can be used for this, right? It's covered the transportation, consuming, health, education, and tourism, stuff like that. And we could actually get access to all those exogenous sources and try to create a database and based on those measures, and we can see what are the aspects actually affected most by the COVID-19. A very interesting example that I would like to introduce to you guys is the foot traffic information. So this is a foot traffic map that indicates the foot traffic by the states. So the red color indicates the low densities of foot traffic, right? So this is the most updated data. So foot traffic means that this is, they use this term to describe the visited numbers of customers to enter the store, the mall, or the location, right? So foot traffic is very interesting measure that we could look in this case, right? And we can see clearly, like in the New York, Massachusetts, New Jersey, and California, which is the first being hit by the COVID. These areas have low density of foot traffic, but the others part of the U.S. seems to keep normal. And nowadays, because of the COVID is spreaded throughout the country, and the northern east and California start to slow down the trend of it. This is very meaningful information that we should show to other people to indicate, this is what we should do, and this is actually the exogenous data that we actually kind of looking for, and to indicate, okay, what can be more present representative for the COVID-19 situation.